Hey, loves.
Hi, Bina.
Hi, Frankie.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
All right. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Freshly washed, which is nice.
I've just finished catch up because I fell asleep last night and missed story time.
Oh, sweetie. Well, I'm glad that you managed to catch up. It's nice to have you with us again.
I haven't finished catch up because Bina kept me busy until about 5 minutes ago.
Is here. Hi, sweetie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Moderate.
Oh, only moderate?
Yeah, I haven't eaten yet. My husband
Right, 1 million.
gonna be amazing, but it's not amazing yet, and I'm a little bit hungry and grumpy.
Oh, sweetness.
But it's been generally a good day. I was happy this morning. Oh, and I have it. Hold on. Also, I just
And you became a better wizard, so that's important.
4 hours becoming a better wizard with someone, and they never asked me the question which I've still got.
Don't you dare change it.
They
Oh my
never
god.
asked me about...
Tris, could I ask you about your ninja disguise? I was hoping that it would be that. Also, you didn't really make any noise when you did it, so I don't know if the catch-up crew will have been able to see your ninja disguise, which is as it should be for a ninja.
Maybe as far as the catch-up crew is concerned, my ninja disguise is literally being undetectable.
Yeah, which is a pretty good ninja disguise.
Yeah.
You can't beat that shit.
No, that's like the ninjaest ninja impression there ever was.
That's the ninjaist. Yeah. Well, have some food, sweetie.
As soon as it's ready.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. How's everyone else? Bina, how are you, my darling?
I'm good. I've spent 4 hours being a better wizard and have not yet eaten. So I'm muting myself while I clatter about the kitchen, trying to scrape some semblance of a meal together.
Does that mean that I can ask you about your ninja disguise as well? Is that how it
No,
works?
I just have cute birds and underneath I have cute whales.
So you're disguised as a whale?
Maybe.
Wow, that's... You know, the other week when we were having dungaree chat and I kind of freaked out a bit because I thought that you'd reached peak Bina and I couldn't. I just couldn't. I was like, I can't take this. This is too much cute. This is too wholesome. This is too pure. I love it too much. I'll never love anything this much. That thing that you just did.
Okay, next time I'm gonna turn up with this t-shirt and this jumper and my bee dungarees.
You have done Frankie a death.
Bye. Goodbye.
Hello, Ghost Malcolm.
Farewell, cruel world. Do we have a ghost, Malcolm?
Yeah, I can't seem to get my camera working.
Oh, no.
That will function at some point.
How will we see your lovely face?
Shan't.
Other than, like, enormous and behind Chris, obviously. I see you cunningly brought your emergency secondary face with you and have deployed it on another person's screen. Very sensible. Very sensible. How is everybody else? How is everybody else?
Pretty good. I saw a bunch of geese today. I went on a really beautiful walk through a forest this morning with my partner towards the riverside, and there was a dandelion almost as tall as me. Then we got to the river, and I thought I saw a bunch of geese, and I thought there was like 50 geese. There was like 100 to 150 geese the further I walked out, and just kept seeing more and more geese.
You said the word geese so often now that it's kind of
a lot of times
lost meaning, and it's just a really nice sound, and I'm really delighted to have heard you say it so much. But also I'm very happy for you and all of your geese.
Yeah, it was really nice. We just like found a fallen over tree, then sat on it and just like looked at the geese on the river for a while and chatted. It was just really lovely.
That's also really wholesome. Everyone just had really, really wholesome, lovely days. What a lovely thing to think. Michael's nodding. I'm glad you've had a lovely, wholesome day, sweetheart.
No, I'm just appreciating all the goodness that's in this room.
Oh, well, that's a very lovely, wholesome thing for you to do, though. So you're fulfilling the prophecy, whether you like it or not.
Prophecy? Hold on a second, Frankie.
Tristan, I thought you were being a better wizard.
Yeah, Tristan.
Yeah, I don't know why people thought it was wholesome. We spent several hours battling against a giant mind-controlling fungus, actually.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Mm.
Why? He sounds like a fun guy.
Oh god.
There's not much room in this chat for that kind of pun.
I'm back. There's like 2/3 of the book still to go. I'm so sorry. I'm so
I
sorry.
don't feel like you can apologize for puns halfway through reading Pratchett to us. Like,
Yeah.
like anyone who's still here is okay with puns.
You make a very valid point. I can see your wizardry has improved drastically.
I thought in general, practice aside, I mean, we're mostly blues dancers, and I thought blues dancers were also kind of just predisposed to being the sort of people who appreciated puns.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Well,
a few. There's the odd person who's like, oh no, I'm leaving. Conversation just got too punny. I just can't. And I've seen it happen times, and I can't think of who they are, but these people exist. They get punned out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they have to preserve the balance of the universe somehow. You know, such a heavy concentration of pun lovers in one space, undiluted, can be dangerous. It can distort the fabric of the space-time continuum.
Only according to some pundits.
Tristan! I appreciated that.
Welcome.
Okay, is it, oh, what time is it? Is it
A minute to story time.
a minute to story time? Does that mean that I have time to show you something nice? I got some flowers in the post.
That's so lovely.
So pretty, are they? So that was my lovely, wholesome day.
Do you mind if
That was my day.
you
That
want to
was
gush?
I mean, I have done a fair bit of gushing kind of individually in private messages to people early, being like, oh yeah, look how nice is it? They're from Zach. Isn't he cute? What a cutie. And it's been really gross and alienating to everyone I know. So I think I will just stick with a dignified thank you, Zachary.
Zachary.
Lovely gesture. What's his name? Kitty. You're cute as hell. All of you, you specifically. That's what I have to say to you. Right now. It's all very pleasant, but not what we're here for. I think it might be story time. How do we feel about that?
Dum 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 dum.
Good thing. Okay. Welcome. Okay. So I will mute you all. This is going to be for Pratchett, bearing in mind this is Pratchett and a Discworld Pratchett, a bit of a dark chapter. So it's not like dark with a capital D, but there's some there's some slightly unsavory things. So I think that's probably about as much as I can say without it being potentially spoilery, but I think we'll probably be we'll get through it together, but gird your loins. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Messages flying across the sky. They were an abomination unto Nugget. The logic sounded impeccable to Polly as she helped Wazza to dig 2 graves. Prayers from the faithful ascended unto Nuggin, going upwards. A variety of unseen things, such as sanctity and grace and a list of this week's abominations, descended from Nuggin to the faithful, going downwards. What was forbidden was messages from one human to another, going, as it were, from side to side. There could be collisions. If you believed in Nuggin, that is. If you believed in prayer. Wazza's real name was Alice, she confided as she dug, but it was hard to apply the name to a small, stick-thin lad with a bad haircut and not much skill with a shovel, who had a habit of standing just slightly too close to you and stared just slightly to the left of your face when she talked to you. Wazza believed in prayer. She believed in everything. That made her kind of awkward to talk to, if you didn't. But Polly felt she should make the effort. "How old are you, Waz?" she said, shoveling dirt. 19, Polly, said Wazza. "Why'd you join?" "The Duchess told me to," said Wazza. That was why people didn't talk to Wazza much. "Waz, you do know that wearing men's clothes is an abomination, don't you?" "Thank you for reminding me, Polly," said Wazza without a trace of irony. "But the Duchess told me that nothing I do in pursuit of my quest will be held abominable." "A quest, eh?" said Polly, trying to sound jovial. "And what kind of quest is that?" "I am to take command of the army," said Wazza. Hairs rose on the back of Polly's neck. "Yes?" she said. "Yes, the Duchess stepped out of her picture when I was asleep and told me to go at once to Neck," said Wazza. "The little mother spoke to me, Oz. She commanded me. She guides my steps. She led me out of vile slavery. How can that be an abomination?" "She's got a sword," thought Polly, "and a shovel. This needs careful handling." "That's nice," she said. And I must tell you that never in my life have I felt such love and camaraderie," Wazza went on earnestly. "The last few days have been the happiest of my life. You have all shown me such kindness, such gentleness. The little mother guides me. She guides us all, Oz. You believe that too, don't you?" The moonlight revealed the tracks of tears in the grime on Wazza's cheeks. Said Polly, and sought wildly for a way to avoid lying. She found it. You know, I want to find my brother," she said. "Well, that does you credit, the Duchess knows," said Wazza quickly. "And, well, I'm also doing it for the Duchess," said Polly, feeling wretched. "I think about the Duchess all the time, I must admit." Well, that was true. It just wasn't honest. "I'm so very glad to hear that, Oz, because I had thought you were a backslider," said Wazza. "But you said that with such conviction. Perhaps this would be the time for us to get down on our knees and—" "Waz, you're standing in another man's grave," said Polly. "There's a time and a place, you know. Let's get back to the others, eh?" The happiest days of the girl's life had been spent tramping through forests, digging graves and trying to dodge soldiers on both sides. The trouble with Polly was that she had a mind that asked questions even when she really, really didn't want to know the answers. "So, the Duchess is still talking to you, is she?" she said, as they made their way among the dark trees. "Oh, yes. When we were in plots, sleeping in the barracks," said Wazza. "She said it was all working." "Don't Don't ask another question, said part of Polly's mind, but she ignored it out of sheer horrible curiosity. Wazza was nice, well, sort of nice in a slightly scary way, but talking to her was like picking at a scab. You knew what was likely to be under the crust, but you picked anyway. So, what did you used to do back in the world? She said. Wazza gave her a haunting smile. I used to be beaten. Tea was brewing in a small hollow near the track. Several of the squad were standing guard. No one liked the idea of men in dark clothes sneaking around. Mug of sloop, said Shufty, holding them up. A few days ago they'd have called it sweet milky tea, but even if they couldn't walk the walk yet, they were determined to talk the talk as soon as possible. What's happening? Said Polly. Dunno, said Shufty. Sergeant Rupert went off over that way with the prisoner, but no one tells us Groans anything. It's grunts, I think, said Wazza, taking the tea. I've done them a couple of mugs, anyway. See what you can find out, eh? Polly gulped her tea down, grabbed the mugs and hurried away. On the edge of the hollow, Maledict was lounging against a tree. There was this about vampires. They could never look scruffy. Instead, they were, what was the word, déshabillés. It meant untidy, but with bags and bags of style. In this case, Maledict's jacket was open, and he'd stuck his packet of cigarettes in the band of his shako. He saluted her with his crossbow as she went past. Oz, he said. Yes, Corp? Any coffee in their packs? Sorry, Corp, only tea. Damn! Maledict thumped the tree behind him. Hey, you went straight for the man who was swallowing the cipher. Straight for him. How come? Just luck, said Polly. Yeah, right. Try again. I have very good night vision. Oh, right. Well, the one on the left started to run, and the one in the middle was dropping the clax tube and reaching for his sword, but the one on the right thought that putting something into his mouth was more important even than fighting or running away. Satisfied? You worked out all that in a couple of seconds. That was smart. Yeah, right. Now, please forget it, okay? I don't want to be noticed. I don't particularly want to be here. I just want to find my brother, okay? Fine. I just thought you'd like to know someone saw you. And you'd better get that tea to them before they try to kill one another. At least I was someone watching the enemy, Polly thought furiously as she walked away. I wasn't someone watching another soldier. Who does he think he is? Or she is. She heard the raised voices as she pushed through a thicket. You can't torture an unarmed man. That was Blouse's voice. Well, I'm not waiting for him to arm himself, sir. He knows stuff. And he's a spy. Don't you dare kick him in the ribs again. That is an order, Sergeant. Asking nicely didn't work, did it, sir? Pretty please with sprinkles on top is not a recognized method of interrogation. You shouldn't be here, sir. You should say, Sergeant, find out what you can from the prisoner and then go somewhere and wait until I tell you what I got out of him, sir. You did it again. What? What? You kicked him again? No, I didn't. Sergeant, I gave you an order. And... Tea's up, said Polly cheerfully. Both men turned. Their expression changed. If they had been birds, their feathers would have gently settled back. Ah, Perks, said Blouse. Well done. Yeah, good lad, said Sergeant Jackram. Polly's presence seemed to lower the temperature. The two men drank their tea and eyed one another warily. You will have noticed, Sergeant, that the men were wearing the dark green uniform of the 1st Battalion, the Slobenian 59th Bowmen, a skirmishing battalion, said Blouse with cold politeness. That is not the uniform of a spy, Sergeant. Yes, sir. But they'd let their uniforms get very dirty then. No shine on the buttons, sir. Patrolling behind enemy lines is not spying, Sergeant. You must have done it in your time. More times than you could count, sir, said Jackram. And I knew full well that if I got caught, I was due a good kicking in the nadgers. But skirmishes is the worst, sir. You think you're safe in the lines, next moment it turns out that some bastard sitting in the bushes on ale has been working out windage and yardage and has dropped an arrow right through your mate's head. He picked up a strange-looking longbow. See these things they've got? Burly and strong in the arm, number 5 recurve, made in bloody Ankh-Moor pork. A real killing weapon. I say we give him a choice, sir. He can tell us what he knows and go out easy, or keep mum and go out hard. No, Sergeant. He is an enemy officer taken in battle and entitled to fair treatment. No, sir. He is a sergeant, and they don't deserve no respect at all, sir. I should know. They're cunning and artful, if they're any good. I wouldn't mind if he was an officer, sir, but sergeants are clever. There was a grunt from the bound prisoner. Loosen his gag, Perks, said Blouse. Instinctively, even if the instinct was only a couple of days old, Polly glanced at Jackram. The sergeant shrugged. She pulled the rag down. I'll talk, said the prisoner, spitting out cotton fluff, but not to that tub of lard. I'll talk to the officer. You keep that man away from me. You're in no position to negotiate, soldier boy, growled Jackram. Sergeant, said the lieutenant, I'm sure you have things to see to. Please do so. Send a couple of men back here. He can't do anything against 4 of us. But that was another order, Sergeant, said Blouse. He turned to the prisoner as Jackram stomped off. What is your name, man? Sergeant Towering, Lieutenant. And if you are a sensible man, you will release me and surrender. Surrender? Said Blouse, as Igorina and Wazza ran to the clearing, armed and bewildered. Yep, I'll put in a good word for you when the boys catch up with us. You don't want to know how many men are looking for you. Could I have a drink, please? What? Oh, yes, of course, said Blouse, as if caught out in a display of bad manners. Perks, fetch some tea for the sergeant. Why are people looking for us, pray? Towering gave him a cockeyed grin. You don't know? No, said Blouse coldly. You really don't know? Now Towering was laughing. He was far too relaxed for a bound man, and Blouse sounded far too much like a nice but worried man trying to appear firm and determined. To Polly, it was like watching a child bluffing in poker against a man called Doc. I don't wish to play games, man. Out with it, said Blouse. Everyone knows about you, Lieutenant. You're the Monstrous Regiment, you are, he said. No offence meant, of course. They say you've got a troll and a vampire and an Igor and a werewolf. They say you... He began to chuckle. They say you overpowered Prince Heinrich and his guard and stole his boots and made him hop away in the altogether. In a thicket some way off, a nightingale sang. For quite a while, uninterrupted. Then Blouse said, no, you are in fact wrong. The man was Captain Horrence. Yeah, right. Like he'd tell you who he was with you pointing swords at him, said Towering. I heard from one of my mates that one of you kicked him in the meat and 2 veg, but I haven't seen the picture yet. Someone took a picture of him getting kicked, squeaked Polly, drenched in a sudden horror. Not of that, no. But there's copies all over the place of him in chains, and I hear it's been sent by Clacks to Ankh-Moor pork. Is he annoyed? Polly quavered, cursing Otto Shriek in his picture-making. Well now, let me see, said Towering sarcastically. Annoyed? No, I shouldn't think he's annoyed. Livid is the word, I think. Or raging. Yeah, I think raging's the word. There's a lot of people looking for you lads now. Well done. Even Blouse could see Polly's distress. Perks, he said. It was you, wasn't it, who... Over and over in Polly's head, the words, "Oh God, I kicked the prince in the fruit and veg," were going round and round like a hamster in a runaway treadmill, until suddenly it ran up against something solid. "Yes, sir," she snapped. "He was forcing himself upon a young woman, sir, if you recall." Blouse's frown faded and became a grin of childlike duplicity. "Ah, yes, indeed. He was pressing his suit in no small way, was he not?" "He didn't have ironing in mind, sir," said Polly fervently. Towering glanced at Wazza, grimly clutching a crossbow that Polly knew for a fact she was scared of, and Eagerina, who'd much rather be holding a surgeon's knife than the sabre in her hand, and looked worried sick. Polly saw his brief smile. "And there you have it, Sergeant Towering," said the lieutenant, turning to the prisoner. "Of course, we all know there is sometimes atrocious behaviour in times of war, but it is not the sort of thing we would expect of a royal prince." Footnote: Lieutenant Blouse read only the more technical history books. "If we are to be pursued because a gallant young soldier prevented matters from becoming even more disgusting, then so be it." "Now I am impressed," said Towering. "A real knight-errant, eh? He's a credit to you, Lieutenant. Any chance of that tea?" Blouse's skinny chest visibly swelled at the compliment. "Yes, Perks, the tea, if you would be so good." "Leaving the three of you with this man who's positively radiating an intention to escape," Polly thought. "Could perhaps Private Goom go and fetch?" she began. "A word in private, Perks," snapped Blouse. He drew her closer, but Polly kept her eye on Sergeant Towering. He might be bound hand and foot, but she wouldn't have trusted a man who grinned like that if he'd been nailed to the ceiling. "Perks, you are making a great contribution, but I really will not have my orders continually questioned," said Blouse. "You are my batman, after all. I think I run a happy ship here, but I will be obeyed. Please?" It was like being savaged by a goldfish, but she had to admit he had a point. "Sorry, sir," she said, backing away as long as possible so as not to miss the end of the tragedy. Then she turned and ran. Jackram was sitting by the fire with the prisoner's bow across his huge knees, slicing some sort of black sausage with a big clasp knife. He was chewing. "Where's the rest of us, sir?" said Polly, scrabbling for a mug. "I sent up to scout a wide perimeter, Perks. Can't be too careful if matey boy's got pals out there." Which was perfectly sensible. It just happened to mean that half the squad had been sent away. "Sarge, you know that captain back at the barracks? That was..." "I've got good hearing, Perks. Kicked him in the royal prerogative, eh? Ha! Makes it all more interesting, eh?" "It's going to go wrong, Sarge, I just know it," said Polly, dragging the kettle off the hob and spilling half the water as she topped up the teapot. "Do you chew at all, Perks?" said Jackram. "What, Sarge?" said Polly distractedly. The sergeant held out a small piece of sticky black stuff. "Tobacco. Chewing tobacco," said Jackram. "I favour Black Heart over Jolly Sailor, 'cause it's rum-dipped, but others say..." "Sarge, that man's going to escape, Sarge. I know he is. The lieutenant isn't in charge. He is. He's all friendly and everything, but I can tell by his eyes, Sarge." "I'm sure Lieutenant Blouse knows what he's doing, Perks," said Jackram primly. "You're not telling me a bound man can overcome 4 of you, are you?" "Oh, sugar," said Polly. "Just down there in old black tin," said Jackram. Polly tipped some into the worst cup of tea ever made by a serving soldier and ran back to the clearing. Amazingly, the man was still in a sitting position and still bound hand and foot. Her fellow cheesemongers were watching him dejectedly. Polly relaxed, but only a little. "And there you have it, Lieutenant," he was saying. "No disgrace in calling it quits, eh? He'll hunt you down soon enough 'cause it's personal now. But if you were to come along with me, I'd do my best to see it goes easy with you. You don't want to get caught by the heavy dragoons right now. They ain't got much of a sense of humour. Tee up, said Polly. Oh, thank you, Perks, said Blouse. I think we can at least cut Sergeant Towering's hands free, don't you? Yes, sir, said Polly, meaning, no, sir. The man offered his bound wrists, and Polly reached out gingerly with her knife while holding the mug like a weapon. Artful lad you've got here, Lieutenant, said Towering. He reckons I'm going to grab his knife off of him. Good lad. Polly sliced the rope, brought her knife hand back quickly, and then carefully proffered the mug. And he's made the tea lukewarm so's it won't hurt when I splashes it in his face, Towering went on. He gave Polly the steady, honest gaze of the born bastard. Polly held it, lie for lie. Oh, yeah. The Ankh-Morpork people have got a little printing press on a cart over on the other side of the river, said Towering, still watching Polly. For morale, they say. And they sent the picture back to the city too on the clacks. Don't ask me how. Oh yeah, a good picture. Plucky rookies trounce Labinia's finest, they wrote. Funny thing, but it looks like the writer man didn't spot it was the prince. But we all did. His voice became even more friendly. Now look, mates, as a foot soldier like yourselves, I'm all for seeing the bloody donkey boys made to look fools. So you come along with me and I'll see to it that at least you don't sleep in chains tomorrow. That's my best offer. He took a sip of tea and added, It's a better one than most of the 10th got, I'll tell you. I heard your regiment got wiped out. Polly's expression didn't change, but she felt herself curl up into a tiny ball behind it. Look at the eyes, look at the eyes. Liar, liar. Wiped out, said Blouse. Towering dropped his mug of tea. He smacked the crossbow out of Waz's hand with his left hand, grabbed the sabre from Igorina with his right hand, and brought the curved blade down on the rope between his legs. It happened fast, before any of them could quite focus on the change in the situation. And then the sergeant was on his feet, slapping Blouse across the face and grabbing him in an armlock. And you were right, kiddo, he said to Polly over Blouse's shoulder. Cry and shame you ain't an officer, eh? The last of the fallen tea dribbled into the soil. Polly reached slowly for her crossbow. Don't! One step, one move from any of you and I'll cut him, said the sergeant. Won't be the first officer I've killed, believe me. The difference between them and me is I don't care. 5 heads turned. There was Jackram, outlined against the distant firelight. He had the man's own bow drawn taut and aimed directly at the sergeant in complete disregard of the fact that the lieutenant's head was in the way. Blouse closed his eyes. You'd shoot your own officer, said Towering. Yep. Won't be the first officer I've killed, neither, said Jackram. You ain't going anywhere, friend, except down. He's your hard, I don't care. The bow creaked. You're just bluffing, mister. Upon my oath, I am not a bluffing man. I don't think we was ever introduced, by the way. Jackram's the name. The change in the man was a whole body event. He seemed to get smaller, as if every cell had said, oh dear, very quietly to itself. He sagged, and Blouse slumped a little. Can I? Too late, said Jackram. Polly never forgot the sound the arrow made. There was silence, and then a thump as Towering's body finally overbalanced and hit the ground. Jackram laid the bow aside carefully. Found out who he was messing with, he said, as if nothing much had happened. Shame, really. Seemed like a decent sort. Any salute left, Perks? Very slowly, Lieutenant Blouse raised his hand to his ear, which the arrow had perforated en route to its target, and then looked with strange detachment at the blood on his fingers. "Oh, sorry about that, sir," said Jackram jovially. "Just saw the one chance and I thought, well, it's the fleshy part. Get yourself a gold earring, sir, and you'll be the height of fashion. Quite a large gold earring, maybe." "Don't you all believe that stuff about the ins and outs," Jackram went on. "That was just lies. I like it when something's up. So what we do now is... Can anyone tell me what we do now?" "Bury the body?" hazarded Igorina. "Yeah, but check his boots. He's got small feet and the Slovenians have got much better boots than us." "Steal the boots off a dead man, Sarge?" said Wazza, still in shock. "Easier than get him off a live one." Jackram softened his voice a little when he saw their expressions. "Lads, this is war, understand? He was a soldier, they were soldiers, you are soldiers, more or less. No soldier will see scran or good boots go to waste. Bury 'em decent and say what prayers you can remember. Hope they've gone where there's no fighting." He raised his voice back to the normal bellow. "Perks, round up the others. Igor, cover the fire, try to make it look like we were never here. We are moving out in number 10 minutes. We can make a few more miles before full daylight. That's right, Lieutenant?" Blouse was still transfixed, but seemed to wake up now. "What? Oh, yes, right. Yes, indeed. Yes. Carry on, Sergeant." The fire gleamed off Jackram's triumphal face. In the red glow, his dark little eyes were like holes in space, his grinning mouth the gateway to a hell, his bulk some monster from the abyss. He let it happen, Polly knew. He obeyed orders. He didn't do anything wrong. But he could have sent Maledict and Jade to help us, instead of Wazza and Igor, who aren't quick with weapons. He sent the others away. He had the bow ready. He played a game with us as pieces, and won. "Poor old soldier," her father and his friends had sung, while frost formed on the window panes. "Poor old soldier. If ever I list for a soldier again, the devil shall be my sergeant." In the firelight, the grin of Sergeant Jackram was a crescent of blood, his coat the colour of a battlefield sky. "You are my little lads," he roared, "and I will look after you." They made more than 6 miles before Jackram called a halt, and already the land was changing. There were more rocks, fewer trees. The Neck Valley was rich and fertile, and it was from here that the fertility had been washed. It was a landscape of ravines and thick scrub woodland, with a few small communities scratching a living from the poverty-stricken soil. It was a good place to hide. And in here, someone had already hidden. It was a stream-carved gully, but just at the end of summer, the stream was just a trickle between the rocks. Jackram must have found it by smell, because you couldn't see it from the track. The ashes of the fire in the small gully were still warm. The sergeant got up awkwardly after inspecting them. "Some lads like our pals from last night," he said. "Couldn't it just be a hunter, Sarge?" said Maledict. "It could, Corporal, but it ain't," said Jackram. "I brought you in here because it looks like a blind gully and there's water and there's good vantage points up there and over there," he pointed, "and there's a decent overhang to keep the weather off and it's hard for anyone to creep up on us. Military, in other words. And someone else thought the same as me last night. So while they're out there looking for us, we'll sit snug where they've already looked. Get a couple of lads up on guard right now." Polly drew first watch, atop the small cliff at the edge of the gully. It was a good sight, no doubt about it. A regiment could hide here. No one could get near without being seen, too. And she was pulling her weight like a proper member of the squad, so with any luck Blouse would find someone to shave him before she was off duty. Through a gap in the treetops below, she could see a road of sorts running through the woodland. She kept an eye on it. Eventually, Tonka relieved her with a cup of soup. On the far side of the gully, Wazza was being replaced by Lofty. "Where are you from, Oz?" said Tonka, while Polly savoured the soup. There couldn't be any harm in telling. "Muns," said Polly. "Really? Someone said you worked in a bar. What was the inn called?" Ah, there was the harm, right there. And she could hardly lie now. "The Duchess," she said. "That big place. Very knobby. Did they treat you okay?" "What? Oh, yes. Yes, pretty fair." "Hit you at all?" "No, never," said Polly, nervous of where this was going. "Worked you hard?" Polly had to consider this. In truth, she worked harder than both the maids, and they at least had an afternoon off every week. "I was usually the first one up and the last one to bed, if that's what you mean," she said. And to change the subject quickly, she went on, "What about you? You know Muns?" "We both lived there, me and Tilda. I mean, Lofty," said Tonka. "Oh? Where?" "The girls' working school," said Tonka, and looked away. And that's the kind of trap small talk can get you in, Polly thought. "Not a nice place, I think," she said, feeling stupid. "It was not a nice place, yes. A very nasty place," said Tonka. "Wazza was there, we think. We think it was her. Used to be sent out a lot on work hire." Polly nodded. Once, a girl from the school came and worked as a maid at the Duchess. She'd arrive every morning, scrubbed raw in a clean pinafore, peeling off from a line of very similar girls led by a teacher and flanked by a couple of large men with long sticks. She was skinny, polite in a dull, trained sort of way, worked very hard and never talked to anybody. She was gone in 3 months, and Polly never found out why. Tonka stared into Polly's eyes, almost mocking her innocence. "We think she was the one they used to lock up sometimes in the special room. That's the thing about the school. If you don't toughen up, you go funny in the head." "I expect you were glad to leave," was all Polly could think of to say. "The basement window was unlocked," said Tonka. "But I promised Tilda we'd go back one day next summer." "Oh, so it wasn't that bad then?" said Polly, grateful for some relief. "No, it'll burn better," said Tonka. "Ever run across someone called Father Jupe?" "Oh, yes," said Polly, and feeling that something more was expected of her, added, "He used to come to dinner when my mother... He used to come to dinner. A bit pompous, but he seemed okay." "Yes," said Tonka. "He was good at seeming." Once again, there was a dark chasm in the conversation that not even a troll could bridge, and all you could do was draw back from the edge. "I'd better go and see to the Rupert," said Polly, standing up. "Thank you very much for the soup." She worked her way down through the scree and birch thickets until she emerged by the little stream that ran through the gully. And there, like some awful river god, was Sergeant Jackram. His red coat, a tent for lesser men, was draped carefully over a bush. He himself was sitting on a rock with his shirt off and his huge braces dangling, so that only a yellowing woolly vest saved the world from a sight of the man's bare chests. For some reason, though, he'd kept his shako on. His shaving kit, with a razor like a small machete and a shaving brush you could use to hang wallpaper, was on the rock beside him. Jackram was bathing his feet in the stream. He glanced up when Polly approached and nodded amiably. "Morning, Perks," he said. "Don't rush. Never rush for Ruperts. Sit down for a spell, get your boots off. Let your feet feel the fresh air. Look after your feet, and your feet will look after you. He pulled out his big clasp knife and the rope of chewing tobacco. Sure you won't join me? No thanks, Sarge. Polly sat down on a rock on the opposite side of the stream, which was only a few feet wide, and started to tug at her boots. She felt as though she'd been given an order. Besides, right now she felt she needed the shock of clean, cold water. Good lad, filthy habit, worse than the smokes, said Jackram, carving off a lump. Got started on it when I was but a lad. Better than striking a light at night, see. Don't want to give away your position. Of course, you've got to gob a bundle every so often, but gobbing in the dark don't show up. Polly dabbled her feet. The icy water did indeed feel refreshing. It seemed to jolt her alive. In the trees around the gully, birds sang. Say it, Perks, said Jackram after a while. Say what, Sarge? Oh, bleeding hell, Perks. It's a nice day. Don't muck me around. I've seen the way you've been looking at me. All right, Sarge. You murdered that man last night. Really? Prove it, said Jackram calmly. Well, I can't, can I? But you set it up. You even sent Igor and Wazza to guard him. They're not good with weapons. How good would they have to be, do you think? 4 of you against a man tied up, said Jackram. No. That sergeant was dead the moment we got him, and he knew it. Took a bloody genius like your Rupert to make him think he got a chance. We're out in the woods, lad. What was Blouse going to do with him? Who'd we hand him over to? Would the lieutenant cart him around with us? We'd tie him to a tree and leave him to kick wolves away until he gets too tired? Much more gentlemanly than giving him a quiet cigarette and a swift chop where you go quick, which is what he was expecting and what I'd have given him. Jackram popped the tobacco into his mouth. You know what most of the military training is, Perks, he went on. All that yelling from little spitbubs like Strappy. It's to turn you into a man who will, on the word of command, stick his blade into some poor sod just like him who happens to be wearing the wrong uniform. He's like you, you're like him. He doesn't really want to kill you, you don't really want to kill him. But if you don't kill him first, he'll kill you. That's the start and finish of it. It don't come easy without training. Ruperts don't get that training because they are gentlemen. Well, upon my oath, I am no gentleman, and I'll kill when I have to. When I said I'd keep you safe, and no damn Rupert's going to stop me. You gave me my discharge papers, Jackram added, radiating indignance. Me! And expected me to thank him. Every other Rupert I've served under has had the sense to write, not posted here, or on extended patrol or something, and shove it back in the mail, but not him. What was it you said to Corporal Strappy that made him run away? Said Polly before she could stop herself. Jackram looked at her for a while, with no expression in his eyes. Then he gave a strange little chuckle. Now, why would a little lad like you say a little thing like that? He said. Because he just vanished, and suddenly some old rule means you're back on the strength, Sarge, said Polly. That's why I said that little thing. Ha! And there's no such rule either, not like that one, said Jackram, splashing his feet. But Ruperts never read the book of rules unless they're trying to find a reason to hang you, so I was safe there. Strappy was scared shitless, you know that. Yes, but he could have slipped away later on, said Polly. He wasn't stupid. Rushing off into the night, he must have had something real close to run from, right? Oh, that's an evil brain you have there, Perks, said Jackram happily. Once again, Polly had the definite feeling that the sergeant was enjoying this, just as he'd seemed pleased when she'd protested about the uniform. He wasn't a bully like Strappy. He treated Igorina and Wazza with something approaching fatherly concern. But with Polly and Maledict and Tonka, he pushed all the time, wanting you to push back. It does the job, Sarge, she said. I just had a little tete-a-tete with him, as it were, quiet like. Explained all the nasty things that can happen vis-a-vis the confusion of war. Like being found with his throat cut, said Polly. Has been known to happen, said Jackram innocently. You know, lad, you're going to make a damn fine sergeant one day. Any fool can use his eyes and ears, but you uses that brain to connect 'em up. I'm not going to be a sergeant. I'm going to get the job done and go home, said Polly vehemently. Yes, I said that once too, Jackram grinned. Perks, I don't need no clacky thing. I don't need no newsy paper. Sergeant Jackram knows what's going on. He talks to the men coming back, the ones that won't talk to anyone else. I know more than the Rupert, for all that he gets little letters from HQ that worry him so much. Everyone talks to Sergeant Jackram. And in his big fat head, Sergeant Jackram puts it all together. Sergeant Jackram knows what's going on. And what's that, Sarge? Said Polly innocently. Jackram didn't reply immediately. Instead, he reached down with a grunt and rubbed one of his feet. The corroded shilling on a string, which had lain innocently on the woolen vest, swung forward. But there was something else. For a moment, something golden slipped out of the vest's open neck. Something oval and golden, on a golden chain, flashed in the sunlight. Then he straightened up and it was dragged back out of sight. This is a bloody odd war, lad, he said. It's true there's not just Slovenian soldiers out there. Lads say there's uniforms they've never seen before. We've kicked a lot of backsides over the years, so maybe they really have ganged up and it's going to be our turn. But what I reckon is, they're stuck. They took the keep, oh yes, I know, but they've got to hold on to it. And winter's coming and all those lads from Ankh-Morpork and everywhere are a long way from home. We might have a chance yet. Ha! Especially now the prince is dead set on finding the young soldier that need him in the wedding tackle. That means he's angry. He'll make mistakes. Well, Sarge, I think I'm glad you do, Private Perks, said Jackram, suddenly becoming a sergeant again. And I think that after you've seen to the Rupert and had a nap, you and me is going to show the lads some swordsmanship. Whatever bleeding war this is, sooner or later young Wazra is going to have to use that blade he waggles about. Get going. Polly found Lieutenant Blouse sitting with his back to the cliff, eating scubbo out of a bowl. Igorina was packing away her medical kit, and Blouse's ear was bandaged. Everything all right, sir? She said. Sorry I wasn't. I quite understand, Perks. You must stand your turn like the other lads, said Blouse, and Polly heard the inverted commas clank into place. I had a refreshing nap, and the bleeding and, indeed, the shaking has quite stopped. However, I do still need a shave. You want me to shave you, said Polly, her heart sinking. I must set an example, Perks, but I have to say you lads make such an effort it puts me to shame. You all seem to have faces as smooth as a baby's bottom, I must say. Yes, sir. Polly pulled out the shaving gear and walked over to the fire where the kettle was permanently boiling. Most of the squad was dozing, but Maledict was sitting cross-legged by the fire, doing something to his hat. Heard about the prisoner last night, he said, without looking up. I don't think the LT is going to last very long, do you? The who? The lieutenant. From what I hear, Blouse is probably going to have a nasty accident. Jackram thinks he's dangerous. He's learning, just like us. Yes, but the LT is supposed to know what to do. Do you think he does? Jackram's stuck too, said Polly, topping up the kettle with cold water. I think we just keep going. If there's anything there to get to, said Maledict. He held up the shako. What do you think? The words "born to die" had been chalked on the side of the hat next to the packet of cigarettes. Very individual, said Polly. Why do you smoke? It's not very vampire, really. Well, I'm not supposed to be very vampire, said Maledict, lighting up with a shaking hand. It's the sucking. I need it. I'm on edge. I'm getting the no coffee jitters. I'm not good with woods in any case. But you're a vamp. Yeah, if this was crypts, no problem. But I keep thinking I'm surrounded by lots of pointy stakes. Truth is, I'm beginning to hurt. It's like going cold bat all over again. I'm getting the voices and the sweats. Shh, said Polly as Shufti grunted in her sleep. You can't be, she hissed. You said you've been going straight for 2 years. Oh, blood, said Maledict. Who said anything about blood? I'm talking about coffee, damn it. We've got plenty of tea, Polly began. You don't understand. This is about craving. You never stop craving. You just switch it to something that doesn't cause people to turn you into a short kebab. I need coffee. Why me? Polly thought. Do I have this little sign on me saying, tell me your troubles? I'll see what I can do, she said, and hastily filled the shaving mug. Polly hurried back with the water, ushered Blouse to a rock and stirred up some foam. She sharpened the razor, taking as long as she dared. When he coughed impatiently, she took up position, raised the razor, and prayed, but not to Nuggin, never to Nuggin since her mother died. And then Lofty was running across the ground, trying to shout a whisper. Movement! Blouse nearly lost another earlobe. Out from nowhere came Jackram, boots on but braces dangling. He grabbed Lofty by the shoulder and swung her around. Where? He demanded. There's a trap down there. Troopers. Cards. What do we do, Sarge? We keep the noise down, muttered Jackram. Are they heading up here? No, they went right past Sarge. Jackram turned and gave the rest of the squad a satisfied look. Okay, Corporal, take Carver under him and Perks and go and have a look. The rest of you tool up and try to be brave. Eh, Lieutenant? Blouse bemusedly dabbed foam off his face. What? Oh, yes. See to it, Sergeant. 20 minutes later, Polly was running after Maledict down the slope. Here and there, the bottom of the valley could be seen through the trees, and as she glanced down, she saw sunlight flash off something metal. At least the trees had coated the woodland floor with a thick layer of needles, and, contrary to received opinion, most woods aren't littered with branches that snap loudly. They reached the edge of the wood where bushes fought one another for their place in the sun, and found a spot with a view. There were only 4 troopers in an unfamiliar uniform, riding in pairs ahead of and behind a cart. It was small and had a canvas cover. What's in a little cart that 4 men have to protect? Said Maledict. It must be valuable. Polly pointed to the huge flag that hung limply from a pole on the wagon. I think it's the newspaper man, she said. It's the same cart. Same flag, too. Then it's a good thing they've gone right past, hissed Maledict. Let's just see them out of sight and creep away like good little mice, okay? The party was travelling at the speed of the cart, and at this point, the 2 riders in the lead stopped and turned in their saddles, waiting for it to catch up. Then one of them pointed, back past the hidden watchers. There was a shout, too far away to be understood. The troopers in the rear trotted up to the cart, met with their comrades, and all 4 turned to look up. There was some discussion, and 2 riders trotted back along the road. Oh, darn, said Polly. What have they spotted? The horsemen went past their hiding place. A few moments later, they heard the horses enter the woods. Do we run and get 'em? Said Jade. Let Jackram do that, said Maledict. But if he does and the men don't come back, Polly began. When they don't come back, Maledict corrected her, then those other 2 will get suspicious, won't they? One will probably stay here, the other will go to get help. Then we'll sneak up and wait, said Maledict. Look, they've dismounted. The cart's pulled in too. If they look as though they're worried, we'll move in. And do what exactly? Said Polly. Threaten to shoot them, said Maledict firmly. And if they don't believe us, then we'll threaten to shoot them in a much louder voice, said Maledict. Happy? And I hope to hell they've got some coffee.
Give me some coffee!
Relatable.
Oh, cliffhanger ending, Frankie. Cliffhanger.
Someone asked me a question right as you read the last line. Can you read it for me one more time, Frankie?
The last line. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
And if they don't believe us, then we'll threaten to shoot them in a much louder voice, said Maledict. Happy? And I hope to hell they've got some coffee.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. So, how is everybody enjoying it?
Very good.
Yes.
So good. Kitty and Rory's faces right now.
Yeah, catch-up crew, I wish you could see Kitty and Rory's faces, but it's just sort of this and huge smiles. It's very cute.
You can pin their video.
Or if they talk.
Well, you know us, we're not really the talkative type.
This is true.
Scandalous falsehood. Malcolm, it's so nice to have you here in the flesh with us.
Thank you.
Malcolm has been marathoning the catch-up today, apparently, which is very exciting.
Yep, I feel like I'm going to start having all of my life in relation to the story. I don't know if people get that if they watch like too much Scrubs or something like that in one sitting. I definitely get that.
How do you think this
Especially
will
when
affect your life? Oh, sorry, Anne, what was that?
Oh, just like, especially when you're really into the story too, if it's like, back when you used to wait for a show every week, even like waiting for the story the next day, especially with books like The Night Circus, where there's so much mystery at the end of each chapter, and like you keep leaving us on cliffhangers, I'm like, but I want to know what comes next. And then it like stays in your head a little, at least for me.
Yep.
Definitely.
In a similar vein, I realized this morning when I was in the shower, oh shit, I know what happens tonight. And I've been like looking forward to it all evening. That passage about Jackram being like backlit by the fire and just like his mouth, the gates of hell.
So fucking good. Oh, so fucking good. God, I'm really enjoying this book. I'm going to be devastated when it's over.
You know, Pratchett wrote quite a lot of books, Frankie.
I heard that, actually. Nitrous.
I mean, you'll just have to find another book that you're just as excited about.
I'm excited about all books. Not all books. That's also a scandalous falsehood. But
Just on the Pratchett note, by the way, he was a huge Banana Daiquiri fan.
ooh, so we could have banana daiquiris.
I mean, that sounds preferable to Scubbo.
Yeah. Everyone go out and boil up some horse. I want to see
Have
everyone.
some like mediocre cup of tea and some Scubbo.
Yeah, hot, sweet, milky tea. Lovely.
Did you talk about fear? Did you talk about Leon? Just fear?
They've definitely talked about beetroots and turnips multiple times.
Banana daiquiris sound amazing at the moment. Banana daiquiri forever.
And chewing tobacco.
And chewing
And
tobacco.
chewing tobacco, yeah. Everyone bring a smoke. You know, anyone who smokes and would like to smoke, bring a smoke. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how people go, and maybe we could look at putting another Pratchett into the poll for the next book. Although, what was that, sweetie?
Oh, just the thought did occur to me. You know how we made bonnets for the end of Pride and Prejudice?
If anyone makes Shakos with like a little regimental badge on, I will shit.
I'm not 100% sure I know exactly what that looks like.
I think it's those like soft beret things. Is that right? Like some sort of soft military.
Like the tall ones, but I could be mistaken.
Oh, I don't know.
Because, of course, berets in the military are just called berets.
Well, I don't fucking know. Somebody Google it. But that would be cool as hell. Oh, there was.
They're amazing hats.
What? What are they?
Shaco, they're really pretty.
Yeah?
Hang on a minute. Hang on a second. How does this work?
Can you put your background as a Shaco?
Yes, I can.
Then that would be a handy way for the catch-up crew to see also.
I can do that.
Monstrous Regiment and discovered where the title came from, which is cool.
What's that, sweetheart?
Where the Monstrous Regiment's like title is an excerpt from.
Very cool. While Duncan gets his Shaco on, I did have something to show you if you would be interested. I was having another look through my shelves today to try and get the next read lined up so that I'm not crippled by uncertainty for the next couple of weeks. And I thought that this might be a good one. Has anybody read The Grace Keepers by Kirsty Logan?
And it looks charming.
It's very charming. The first Callanish knew of the Circus Excalibur was the striped silk of their sails against the grey sky. Ships arrived a dozen a day in the archipelagos, and Callanish knew that the circus folk would have to fight for their place on her island. In a world that is almost entirely sea, placing your feet on land was a privilege that must be earned. It's sort of vaguely night circus-y and Wizardiverse-y in temperament. I think if you kind of cross the two of them over, this would be fairly squarely in the middle. I haven't read it in a while, as per usual, but I vaguely remember it being kind of evocative and sort of haunting and elusive, and I think it maybe has a queer love story at the centre, which would be nice. But that is a possibility. Ooh! Oh! Yeah, that makes sense. That's what they're wearing on the covers. Oh. Okay. Cool, yeah, that is a pretty hat.
That is such a good hat.
I would very much like to see that being made by Bina.
Why do I get the complicated craft project?
Because you're so good at complicated crafts. You don't have to.
Because we could watch you construct it night after night as we listened. You know, it'd just be a little bit more done each evening.
That's so true. Oh shit, we're still recording. Okay, wait. Everyone say goodbye to the catch-up crew.
Bye, catch-up crew.
Bye.
We love you.